from the Crypt.
Sup, freaks? Welcome to Tales from the Crypt, a podcast about the weird world of crypto and the chaos that it's grown in its wake. I'm your host, Marty Bent. This is episode number 1. I'm sitting down with Louis Roberts from Barstool. We're going to go over the history of Bitcoin today. If you're going to understand a subject holistically, I think it's important to understand its history. So today I have Louis with me.
And just sorry to interrupt you, Marty. I really don't know shit. I'm kind of just like, I think I said I was like the little Yachty of podcasting, where like no one knows little why Yachty. It works. I don't know how I'm making it work. Just things have just been like coming together. I say I'm using TA. I'm kind of using TA, but TA doesn't really work. I'm kind of just taking people's information, and I'm kind of just like trying to build crypto cap, like as we grow Barstool, just kind of do something on the side.
Yeah, I think my favorite analogy that you made was you're the Watson to my Sherlock Holmes. I really
very
like that
much,
one.
Very much. You're the Sherlock Holmes. You're the guy. Subscribe to Marty Bent's newsletter. It's literally like crypto for dummies. It's really, really helping everyone out. So let's subscribe to that as well. And
yeah, you can find that subscription link in my pinned tweet at Marty Bent on Twitter.
There you go. And just so everyone knows, I won't be on every episode because I'm going to try and make money. I'm going to try and like sell some shit for this podcast. Like, hey, anyone wants to sponsor the pod, talesfromthecrypt21@gmail.com. I will take your money. I will take every ICO's money. Even if I think it's bullshit, we will fucking plug every ICO on this pod.
I will not be too pumped about the ICO pumping, but if it brings in money and I'm able to buy more Bitcoin with it, okay, I'll do it. I'll read it like Bill Burr reads Sherry Berry's reads.
We can't steal studio time from Barstool Sports forever. We got to get some ICO, some fake ICO money.
That's, hey, you know what? I'm not a big fan of the ICOs, but I'll take some dumb money if I can get it. Yeah, so I guess let's just dive into it. The history of Bitcoin. I guess I have a question for you before we start, Louis. Sort of, what do you think about Bitcoin, and when did you get into it?
I think I love the utility behind blockchain. I love the utility behind Bitcoin. I like the idea of what the technology is going to be. I like that everyone's fucking scared of it, that are like all these old people. When old people are scared, when old people get scared, that's like my eyes light up. But when I see all these old people that are like rich, that are like, oh yeah, like don't do this, don't do that, it's more like put it this way, people that are super rich, they are not really trying to like help out people. Like they're trying to help themselves and help their company grow. So if they're telling you not to do something, it's because they want to fucking take the money. And I think there is going to be a huge space there, and it's definitely going to be a huge learning curve, but I love it. I got in probably like 7 months ago. I don't even fucking know. I want to say 7 months ago. I just basically, like, people were talking about it. I had a few people hit me up. Shout out Tim. Shout out some people I can't say because they get in trouble because they work in finance. And then just started to fucking look at TA and look at Bittrex and look at Coinbase, and next thing you know, we're fucking sitting here. Bang, it's done.
Yeah, it's crazy. So you came in with the wave of sort of new users this year after the price went above $1,000 at the beginning of the year. That's when a lot of interest started growing. People started getting more interested in Bitcoin again. Sort of psychological levels, $1,000 is definitely a psychological level in a lot of people's minds. And one thing you said earlier, you said you like the idea behind blockchain, you like the idea behind Bitcoin, but I'm going to tell you, you can't do blockchain without Bitcoin. All right, so let's go back and let's go to November 1st, 2008, when Satoshi Nakamoto introduces Bitcoin to the world. So he goes on to this dude, Satoshi Nakamoto. I'm going to say dude for ease sake. Nobody knows who he is. He, she, or it, or they.
Look, let's, before we fucking get into what this shit is, let's get into my man Satoshi. Satoshi could be a ghost. He could be an alien. We don't know who Satoshi is still. He's just this motherfucking, someone came with this technology or something, and then next thing you know, we're just all getting motherfucking rich. We don't even know how. I love it. We're just getting rich. We don't even know how. I still don't know. I mean, I watched the documentary on Netflix. This fucking guy, he could be anyone. He could be me or you. He could be you for all I know. He could be you, and now you're using Barstool to keep pumping this platform, which would be super smart.
You never know. I could be Satoshi. I like to think we are all Satoshi. All right? No, but seriously, nobody knows who he, she, it, or them are. I mean, there's a lot of speculation. There's a couple people that have claimed to be Satoshi. Newsweek thought they found them, I believe, in 2012. But so far, nobody's found hardcore evidence of who Satoshi is. Yeah, he's just some random anonymous person on the internet that showed up sort of out of the blue. I say sort of because we know that he had conversations with a few people before he dropped the white paper. But the world at large was really introduced to Satoshi's idea and Bitcoin. Again, November 1st, 2008. He basically goes onto this mailing list. It's a bunch of nerds that are really into cryptography. They're really into privacy and stuff like that. And they're at the edge of computer science and engineering. And he basically drops an email on this mailing list and says, hey, I've been working on this new electronic cash system. It's fully peer-to-peer. It's got no trusted third party, and basically dropped the abstract of the Bitcoin white paper. And that's sort of when we were introduced to it, just sort of out of the blue, the day after the Phillies won the World Series in 2008.
That was a night. I'm from Philadelphia. That was a night. I remember. That was a night. I'll be honest, I didn't know what the fuck Bitcoin was at that point, and I wouldn't even have thought about it. I think I was like, fuck, what was I doing? I don't even know what I was even doing. I was like in college bartending, like, I don't even know, but what a night that was.
I was in Philadelphia that night as well. Little do people know, I went to a rival high school.
Yeah,
Louis and I went to rival high schools.
Yeah, that's the crazy thing is that like we met on Twitter, and then like we like I didn't know where Marty was from, but we met on Twitter, and then next thing you know, it was like, oh shit, we ended up going to rival high schools. It was like I was like, this is a small world. Like this is some crazy shit going on right here.
Very small world. And that day, the day before Bitcoin was dropped, Halloween, it was a Friday, I believe. I remember vividly. I was actually at the Phillies game the night before, the night they won. And so the day Satoshi drops the white paper, I think I woke up in a Lieutenant Dangle Halloween costume, hungover, after a Friday night Edgeley or something like that.
Yeah, I remember going to the parade, and I went and came back, and I think my costume that night, I do not know I remember this, my costume that night I was the man in the yellow hat.
Oh, from Curious George?
Yeah, and I'm going to, God, I probably shouldn't be telling the story, but I'm going to tell the story anyway because this is the trust tree. Barstool's always been in the trust tree. I remember being in, if anyone's from or been to Philadelphia, I remember I was out in Manayunk, and I remember I was with my friends and my friends who are girls, and we had maybe a little bit of Molly that night, and I remember like sneaking into the woman's bathroom, and like they were like hi to me, and I'm doing Molly, but I'm in this big man in the yellow hat costume, and like we're doing Molly, and I'm like in the girl's bathroom. It was a crazy night. Way before the Bitcoin, though. Like, I didn't know what was going on. So, yeah, let's get back to the Bitcoin, but that's just a little side story about 2008.
God, I miss college. Yeah, so Satoshi drops this white paper, and basically for 2 months, November and December, the people on the mailing list that he sort of introduced it to started critiquing his idea. A bunch of people were like, this is a novel combination of a bunch of technologies that have come before you, but it's never going to scale. You'll never be able to deploy this globally. Satoshi pushed back on that. Other people, like Hal Finney, sort of saw the novelty of Bitcoin and where it could go, the potential, and sort of asked more about what he was doing and showed some curiosity, say, hey, this thing has potential. So those 2 months go by. There's a back and forth on that mailing list. Satoshi's sort of tweaking the idea as he's getting this feedback. And after 2 months, he's finally ready to drop it on January 3rd, 2009. He basically launches Bitcoin. That day, we have what's called the Genesis block, which is the first block that was ever mined in Bitcoin. And it came with a pretty overt message. Satoshi, from the beginning, really made it known that Bitcoin was created for a certain purpose, and it was to come at the banks and the current monetary system. The way he let this be known to the world, is he basically embedded a headline from the Times of London, the paper that day, and it was basically the headline was about a bailout that was about to happen for the banks, a second bailout. Let me find the exact quote. I should know this off the top of my head. I think it was the Times of London, Chancellor on the brink of the second bailout. So right there, Satoshi says, "Hey, we're coming for your lunch," and Bitcoin starts. So in the beginning of 2009, not a lot's going on. It's just a bunch of nerds playing around with this new technology. They're interested in the decentralized movement, open software, free open source software, the FOSS movement, and they're basically tweaking the idea. Satoshi's talking to Hal Finney a lot in the beginning. Rest in peace. Hal is no longer with us, but
R.I.P. Hal.
R.I.P. Hal. Rip in peace. But Hal was actually the first person that ever received a Bitcoin transaction outside of mining reward. So Satoshi sent him 10 Bitcoin, I think 9 days after he launched Bitcoin, and was like, "Hey, the shit works." And from there, 2009 is pretty quiet. They're tweaking the idea, and it's not until October that somebody tries to value Bitcoin, and that was the new Liberty Standard, and they valued one Bitcoin at basically less than 8% of a penny, and they based that valuation off the electricity the miners were using to mine Bitcoin. And then the year ends, and there's basically a technical sort of checkpoint that's reached, and so we had the first upward difficulty adjustment, which means there's more miners coming on the network. There's more people interested in this project. So at the end of the year, we had that first adjustment. It's like, hey, okay, people have found this and they're interested in it. The year is 2010. We begin the year with the first ever Bitcoin exchange. Bitcoin Market opened its doors and basically allowed people to access Bitcoin with their PayPal accounts. So now anybody with a PayPal account can buy Bitcoin and sort of get into the movement. At this point, again, it was valued at less than a penny. So I'm not sure how many people were interested in buying Bitcoin at this point. But we have an exchange. People are able to do this. And beginning of 2010, after that, is pretty quiet, and until we get to May 22nd, which is an epic day in Bitcoin. It's one that will be remembered, and we actually have a holiday every year because of this instance in the Bitcoin community. We call it Bitcoin Pizza Day, and that is because on May 22nd in 2010, some dude named Laszlo, he spent 10,000 Bitcoin for 2 Papa John's pizzas.
That's the type of shit, man. It's the type of shit I can never get over. If you told me I waste like I don't know where Laszlo's at. Shout out Laszlo. I would fucking probably kill myself. I'd put a fucking bullet in my head because you basically you don't ever have to work again, and you fucking wasted it. I can't even think about that shit.
You can't blame Laszlo. You know, at this point in 2010, it's like, all right, we're playing with funny internet money, and nobody really knows that the project's going to succeed or fall on its face. Maybe Laszlo was selling the top here at this point and was saying, "Hey, I need pizzas. I'm just going to use this Bitcoin." You can't really look back on it and be like, I shouldn't have spent that. Nobody knew at this point.
Bro.
But today, that Bitcoin would be worth around like $40 million.
That's why I kill myself. If you told me I had something that was worth $40 million and I bought 2 pizzas that were one Papa John's fucking sucks. Sponsor the pod, but it sucks. And
they give you that pepper. They give you that pepper. I like that touch.
I mean, if we're being completely honest, like, they don't have any fucking Cinesticks. They have no dessert. Like, how are they fucking, like, come on now. If Domino's eats their lunch literally.
I agree with that. Yeah. So this guy sells his Bitcoin or exchanges his Bitcoin for pizzas. We move into July. And the developers, while this is going on, while Laszlo's buying pizzas and exchanges are being made, the developers, the nerds that we first talked about, are still working on the protocol. And in the summer of 2010, they released version 0.3 of Bitcoin. They basically upgraded the software, fixed some bugs, and released it. I think it was in July of 2010. And basically after this happened, Slashdot, which is a website that caters to software engineers and nerds that are interested in computers, posted a story announcing the release of this version. And basically after that, we have the beginning of Bitcoin's first bubble in 2010. So Slashdot announces this. People are like, okay, what is this Bitcoin? They start creating accounts and they start buying, and the price shoots up overnight from 0.8 of a penny to 8 cents. So 10x's overnight. And if you want to talk about bubbles, this is probably technically Bitcoin's first bubble. 10xing overnight. And shortly after this, Jed McCaleb, he's some dude, I believe he was chilling in Costa Rica or something. He was down on the beach surfing, and he basically saw this Bitcoin shit going on. I was like, hey, I'm going to start an exchange. It just so happens that the exchange that he started is Mt. Gox, which is infamous throughout the world now, not just Bitcoin, for having an epic failure. I think 770,000 Bitcoin were lost when all was said and done.
770,000?
Yes, we'll get to that. That comes later.
Okay, that just got me really excited. I'm because like I was about to fucking leave the room, go on a treasure hunt. Like if there's 770,000 Bitcoin in this world that people don't know where it's at, I'm gonna go find it.
Somebody knows where it's at, and they're not telling you.
We may have to get deep web. We may have to get deep web Tim. Shout out deep web Tim. You may not. I don't know when we'll get deep web Tim on the podcast. We may have to get deep web Tim and start hacking some shit and find this fucking Bitcoin.
Well, I think he'd definitely know where to start.
For sure, deep web Tim. You guys will hear a lot about deep web Tim later. Let's continue.
Yeah, so you continue that same summer. Basically, like I was talking about difficulty adjustments at the end of 2009. What happens when more miners come on the network is there's more computing power competing for these Bitcoin. And in the summer of 2010, miners started creating new chips or using new chips, GPU chips instead of CPU chips. And what this did was basically speed up mining and make mining like go Super Saiyan, not Super Saiyan yet, and like zero gravity Dragon Ball Z training. They went from like training on Earth to GPU miners. That was a terrible joke. So that basically means that if you want to mine Bitcoin now, you have to use a more expensive, more specialized chip. So it means there's more demand, more people coming in, more people want to get these Bitcoins. And then as the year 2010 goes on, we get to November, and the market cap hits $1 million. So Bitcoin, as a market cap, 2 years in, almost a year and 10 months, it's $1 million market cap. And again, continuing the first Bitcoin bubble, the price hits 50 cents. Around the same time, about a month later, Satoshi leaves. Nobody's ever heard from Satoshi since the winter of 2010.
I mean, that's why he's a fucking ghost, dude. He's a ghost. I'm not taking anyone else's word for it. I don't care if anyone says they saw him, if they have an email with him. The guy's a fucking ghost. We had a ghost give us this technology, maybe an alien. That's all I got. I'm not gonna. Maybe it was like, I don't know who it was. Maybe it was I think at one point, man, you talked about like maybe it was like the computer itself, like some Matrix shit.
Yeah, there's some theories out there that an artificial intelligence sort of bootstrapped itself, figured all this out, and basically created a decentralized store of value where computers can trade value between each other. So some people think a smart AI basically figured this all out, put it together, and launched it, and then it ghosted.
Motherfucking Terminator shit, dude. That's some motherfucking. We got some real deep shit on our hands. The only thing I know though, and kind of care about is like, let's just keep getting motherfucking rich. Like, let's keep this shit. Like when it was at 50 cents, like I wasn't in on it, so let's just keep getting rich. That's all.
Getting rich is fun. I agree. It's getting fun, but you also have to think this is so much more than getting rich. We have a revolutionary technology on our hands that has never existed before. I mean, you want to talk about value proposition. The value proposition in Bitcoin is its censorship resistance. So the fact that it's decentralized, you can run a node, I can run a node, somebody in China runs a node, Russia, wherever. There's no central server to attack. And basically what this is an innovation on par with the printing press. when you get down to it, because you can't have the Chinese government like they're trying to do now. They're not able to shut down the Bitcoin network. So the fact that you can make transactions and nobody can shut it down it's a revolution that nobody seems to grasp right now. People are starting to, but once it fully clicks, things are going to get weird. Things are going to get really weird.
Printing press. Shout out Johannes Gutenberg. Let's keep going.
The year's 2011. Satoshi has just left. People are wondering where he is. They'll soon come to find that he's never coming back. 2011 was a very important year for Bitcoin. The birds and the bees were out and about. They were spreading the Bitcoin love. And if the story of Bitcoin is ever made into a movie, 2011, the first 8 months would be the montage, the first montage in the movie.
I fucking love montages, man. God, I love montages. I can't fucking wait for this. If this is our first montage, the first montage is always the best. Think about like Mighty Ducks too, when they're beating the shit out of all the teams, like they're beating Jamaica like 11-1 and all that shit. That stuff's great. So I'm gonna let you jump into this because montages are without a doubt one of my favorite things in this world.
If this movie's ever made, this will probably be one of your top 3 favorite montages, all right? So if this montage is going to go like anything, it's going to go like this. We flash cut to January 28th. The network has reached block 105,000. This means that 25% of every Bitcoin that will ever be mined has been mined. There are now 5,250,000 on the market. We jump to Ross Ulbricht. He's launching the Silk Road. This is the dark web market where you can get your weed, your Molly, even your black tar heroin if you wanted to. It only accepts Bitcoin. We go to 3 days after the Super Bowl. Bitcoin has reached parity with the US dollar. It now costs $1 to attain 1 Bitcoin. Nerd media freaks out about this, writes a bunch of stories about Bitcoin, drawing a bunch of the public in. We zoom in on Japan, and Mark Karpeles is buying Mt. Gox from Jed McCaleb. Jed knows it's a sinking ship. Mark is an idiot and is taking some damaged goods. We screen pan to a computer nerd tracking Bitcoin's hashing power as it significantly jumps out of nowhere. Some people think a supercomputer is coming to the mining game. We blink. We're in a 19-year-old's basement. He's an amateur trader who's just lost all his money because the Bitcoin price has fallen 30% to 70 cents. We hover over to his next-door neighbor who just clicked on a YouTube video titled, "What is Bitcoin?" This is currently going viral, reaching 6 million people. We throw up a grid screen. Boom. It's a bunch of entrepreneurs from all over the world. They're shaking hands with businessmen as they're opening up Bitcoin exchanges in their respective countries. The middle screen in that grid expands to reveal the April 16th cover of Time magazine, which is flaunting Bitcoin in the world's face. Open the cover, and we see that the network difficulty is on a steady rise up and to the right. We turn the page, and we notice that the price of Bitcoin is $10 on Mt. Gox. The person reading the week-old magazine looks up at their laptop and sees that the price has surged to almost $32. He goes all in. He doesn't want to miss the ride. We flash cut to a week later. This dude is sobbing. His girlfriend's walking out the door. He's got a half-drinking bottle of whiskey in his hand. Why is this? Bitcoin has crashed all the way back down to $10. He bought the top. He goes to take a swig of the whiskey, closes his eyes, and we flash to a web clipping of someone getting hacked and losing 25,000 Bitcoin. The camera zooms out and we see that the computer belongs to Mark Karpeles, the owner of Mt. Gox. He changes tabs to an email account and we can see he's having a conversation with a hacker that has just stole all the username and passwords on his website. We flash pan to an affected user of this hack panicking as his account on another exchange gets hacked because he's using the same username and password across the internet like an asshole. He checks his Twitter account. The first tweet is a screenshot of the chart of the network difficulty, which has increased 10x in the last 2 months. He scrolls down further and sees a tweet about an upcoming Bitcoin conference and clicks on the link. The music fades and we slowly zoom in to a bunch of poorly dressed nerds gathered at a hotel conference room in New York City. We're at the first ever Bitcoin conference. We pan into a digital clock. We see that the date is August 20th, 2011. And the montage ends.
Whoa! Man, that felt like motherfucking Ocean's 11 right there.
What a year.
I am fucking fired the fuck up right now. That really felt like it was Ocean's 11. I felt like I was Danny Ocean. You were maybe Matt Damon. I don't know about Brad Pitt. I'm Danny Ocean. I'm definitely Ocean.
You should see my eating and talking skills. They're very good. Okay. I can eat and talk very well. Just as well as Brad Pitt can.
I just felt like I was Ocean there. Basically just the guy behind the scenes. You were doing everything. That's why I called you Damon. Like, you were doing all the work. I was just hanging out.
Damon's a tryhard in those movies.
Yeah, but he was really important. That's what I think I was
true.
getting at. He's really fucking important. He was like a really important guy, and everyone was just like, he didn't really do much, but he really did fucking everything.
I'll take it. All right. We're going to step outside of Bitcoin here. I got a story for you. I used to get called Brad Pitt, all right? This is a story about weight change, all right? Watch your weight.
What?
So when I lived on the Upper East Side.
You got to show some pictures if you're going to compare yourself to fucking Mr. Legend of the Fall himself, Brad Pitt.
Hey, I didn't compare myself, all right? Here's the story. I lived on the Upper East Side, 83rd and 2nd. There was this homeless dude, smartest homeless dude I've ever met in my life. He would sit out this Italian restaurant called Emilio's. It's one of the most expensive restaurants in the city. And he would wait for people to come out of that restaurant. People would hand him 20s. While he's waiting out there, people are passing him on 2nd Ave. And every time I would walk by, he'd look at me and be like, hey, what's up, Brad Pitt? And I'd be like, oh, I threw that guy a 5 a couple times. That was the first year I lived there. About a year after I gave him the last 5, I'm walking by. I put on some weight. He says, yo, what's up, Brock Lesnar? And my life was shattered at that point. I think I went on a run at midnight that night.
Dude, that homeless guy just took your brain into a maze. He had your brain in a maze, and you were running around in that maze. It was like one of those hedge mazes you see what rich people have. He had you in a hedge maze, and he just took everything from you.
From Brad Pitt to Brock Lesnar.
That's. If someone told me I look like Brock Lesnar from Brad Pitt, I would have probably jumped in front of the fucking 6 train. That's serious. That's where I would have been at, for being completely honest.
Yeah, it was a tough night. It was a tough night. Enough about Brad Pitt and Brock Lesnar, though. I think we're going to cut the Bitcoin story here. This is a lot of information to take in. We're through 2 years of the experiment. There's 6 more years to go, but I think this is a good place to stop. I don't want to overwhelm anybody with information. We still got a lot of shit to talk about, though. A lot of shit. 2
years, but really 5 years if we're going back to when it started. 2 years of when shit really started to pop off.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, no, 2 years, yeah. It was launched in January 2009. We're in the 2012 now, so we got 3 years in. We're 3 years in. 2009, 2010, 2011.
That's why you're Sherlock and I'm Watson, because I just really fucked that up right there.
You know what? Yeah. So, like I said, we got a lot of shit to talk about in the upcoming episodes. We're going to talk about Mt. Gox. That was one of the biggest shit shows, not only in Bitcoin, but I think throughout the world. You think Enron was bad? Mt. Gox, in my opinion, was a lot worse.
Yeah, so we're going to come back with basically part 2 of the history of Bitcoin, Silk Road, Mt. Gox, all that good shit. And then after part 2, we'll get into what the history of Tales from the Crypt is going to have to offer you guys.
Yeah, we'll get into sort of what we're going to be doing on this podcast. Again, we'll explain that in the 3rd episode, but I think this is a good stopping point for right now. But I want to thank you guys all for listening. I know I'm just some random dude. I hope you guys learned a little bit and had some fun. Again, my name is Marty Bent. You can find me on Twitter at Marty Bent. I'm sitting here with Louis Roberts from Barstool. His handle's a little weirder, at Buddy Loveless.
Follow me, subscribe to the podcast, subscribe, leave reviews.
Smash that subscribe button.
All right, guys, we'll be back later. Thank you.
Peace and love.
Tales from the Crypt.